I actually thought about filing bankruptcy again. I don't really want to do that.
$5,500 in expenses last month alone on credit cards, which is outrageous when you're making $3,100 a month. We got Groupon for $372, we got Groupon for $720, we got Groupon for $899, and Groupon for $131. $2,000 worth of personal items? So why are you traveling? You got $17,000 worth of credit card debt.
And I ended up owing about $17,000.
Do you know how many credit cards you have off the top of your head?
Well, I have a lot that I don't use.
Every single one of these $508 is an Amazon transaction. What did you spend $508 on Amazon for last month? We can't be spending $600 on personal care right now when we got $70,000 of credit card debt. But don't worry, you did get your $1.75 back in cash back. So we spent $1,900.
Yeah, I kind of went a little overboard.
The monthly spending is out of control. That credit card debt's going to be $50,000 next year if you don't stop. Change something now.
Yeah, it's not as bad as it was, but it's definitely sort of veering in that direction. When I declared bankruptcy in 2008, that really forced me to get really on track with my spending.
I can promise you don't need $2,000 worth of stuff to get hired. Close to $3,000 in a single month you've spent on personal care. And I can promise you don't need to spend $2,700 a month on personal care things. I can promise you.
My name is Saskia Bauer. I'm 51, and I am calling in from Los Angeles, California.
And what do you do for work?
I am an admin for a multinational financial services company called Glory Global Solutions. I'm an account service administrator.
And how long have you been doing that for?
I just started. I started with Glory in September. I had been with another company for about 7 years, but I was laid off in May.
Okay, so I guess about a 3-4 month transition between finding jobs?
Yes.
And how much are you making in your current role?
I make $27 an hour. So annually, gosh, I think that works out to $50,000, $55,000 a year. I'm not really sure, actually.
$55,000 is what I'd call it.
Correct.
And what were you making in your previous role?
$50,000 a year.
And how would you define your current financial situation on a scale of 1 to 10?
Ooh, I would say it's maybe a 5. It's not where I'd like it to be.
And why do you give yourself a 5?
I have some credit card debt that I've amassed over the last couple of years that I'm really not comfortable with. I had 0 credit card debt. I had all my cards set to pay off in full. For years, I carried no debt since 2008. I've carried no debt on my cards. And 2022 was the first time that I started carrying debt on my cards, which I'm not comfortable with. I don't like it.
And what kind of caused you to start carrying debt in 2022?
So a couple of different things. During the pandemic, I was doing okay. I still had my job. I was one of the lucky folks that was still working because I worked from home. I worked at a remote position. But as we all saw in 2022, prices started to jump. Things got really inflated. Even, all of a sudden I was going to the grocery store, for example, where at the most I'd spent maybe like $50. And all of a sudden I was spending like over $100 at the grocery store. Eating out was becoming really expensive, and even just daily household items just doubling in price. So all of a sudden I was starting to not be able to pay my credit cards off in full. And also I had been working at the same wage since 2017. So there wasn't a cost of living increase that was given to us by my previous employer. So yeah, I was working at the same wage that I've been working since 2017.
I can definitely see, working the same wage for the last 6 years without a pay increase can definitely have some changes on your financial situation if you don't make changes with that. So
100%. And I actually took on another job. I started driving for Uber Eats just so I could pay, because I was starting to have trouble even just paying my rent. And I'd also amassed some medical debt. I had a kidney surgery in 2021, and my insurance at the time with my employer really I didn't have a very good plan with them. So I ended up, I had kidney stones and I had lasering done on them, and I ended up owing about $17,000 from that. So that wasn't great. So it was like kind of this accumulation of hits: medical, inflation, and no increase in pay.
Okay, so let's dive into the debts then. What's the total debts we have and how much of each?
So right now for credit cards, I'm about $17,000 in debt, which I'm not happy with. I owe right now, probably the biggest card I owe to is my Marriott card, my Marriott Bonvoy card, because I've been doing a lot of traveling this year.
So why are you traveling? You got $17,000 of the credit card debt.
Because I have to travel for my job. So,
and they're not covering that?
What's that? No. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Why are they making you travel if if they're
well,
not paying?
actually, the travel is not for my current job. It's for another job that I have, which is freelance. So sometimes travel expenses are covered, sometimes they're not.
Okay, so it's not for your full-time job, it's for your
No,
freelance on the side.
freelance, exactly.
Okay, so we got $17,000 worth of credit card debt. How much other debt do we have, or do we have any other debt
No,
right now?
I mean, surprisingly, I don't have student loan debt. That's in large part thanks to my father. My father paid for my education. I was very lucky because I have a lot of friends with student debt, which is pretty lousy, as we know. And I don't owe any money on my car. I don't. Yeah, I don't. That pretty much credit card debt is my only area of debt.
Okay, and so you started this debt last year. Timeline, how long has it been at $17,000? Has it been consistently going up, say $1,000 a month for last year, or what has that kind of been looking like?
Yeah, I mean, I had to. So obviously, when I got laid off in May of this year, I had to reduce my monthly payment. So my monthly payment went from like $1,500 paying it off to like 200. So and then being unemployed for about 4 months. I wasn't able, and I still needed to obviously buy groceries. And then I also moved to Los Angeles. I was in Northern California and I moved in July. So there were expenses that went along with that, of course. And yeah, I would say probably it really started getting, yeah, probably about like $1,000 a month.
Okay, what was the total balance before you got laid off?
Oh, when I got laid off, I would say the Marriott Bonvoy card I think was 3,000, maybe close to four.
Do you know what the total balance was before you got laid off? I'm just
I
curious, like
have to look.
how much
Yeah.
it's grown since you got laid off, because obviously reduction of income has a big part of it. So I'm just trying to understand how much that 17,000 came before the layoff versus after the layoff.
Yeah, I would say it was probably about maybe like 15 before I was laid off.
Oh, so it hasn't really increased. I mean, it's increased $2,000 since you got laid off, but majority of that came when you had a full-time job.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, that's not good then. That means there was a lot of spending that's happening before that. That's happening. So okay, we'll dive into all those different transactions because I see you send over all the different credit card statements. And do you know how many credit cards you have off the top of your head?
Oh God. Well, I have a lot that I don't use. I principally use the Chase cards because I get cash back, and there's other, the Marriott rewards, and obviously Southwest. I get rewards with that. I have a lot of store cards that I don't really use very often, like Macy's, Nordstrom, Saks Fifth Avenue. I don't use those cards. Occasionally I'll make a purchase, but all of those store cards are set to pay in full because, as we know, that the interest on store cards is pretty exorbitant.
Interest on any credit card is exorbitant, and
Yeah.
it sounds like you are the perfect person these credit card companies want because you've signed up for every store card under the sun and every travel rewards card under the sun. It sounds like so. We're gonna have to take a hard look at these credit card transactions here in a minute, and kind of dive through those. So, got $17,000 worth of debt. What assets do we have right now?
So I have two IRAs. From one was from the death of my mother in 2001. And that one is I think $14,000 in that. And then I have another one from a previous job that was a 401k that I rolled over into an IRA, and that one's got 18,000. So I think it's a total of like 30,000, a little over 30,000 in
Okay,
IRAs.
14,001 IRA, 18,000 another one. So we
Yeah.
got $32,000 there. And how much do we have in our bank account right
Oh,
now?
right now, currently, I have about 6,000 in my bank account. I just upped my payments for all the credit cards to like to pay $1,500. So yeah.
Okay. And where did that influx of cash come from? Because I think when you sent over
So
the budget, it was at $382.
yeah, so I get a refund every year from the IRS in state of California. They're definitely not as big as they used to be, but from my freelance work, that's claimed on my taxes. So I expend a lot of stuff. So like all my travel, any purchases that have to do with my freelance are all deducted off my filings. So I got gosh, what was I want to say like 1,400 from the IRS and 400 from the state, and then I got another, and then now I'm getting a regular paycheck with my new day job.
Okay. So we got 6,000 there. So that means you got total assets about $38,000, total debts just over $17,000, which brings your net worth to about $20,000 right now. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've never thought of myself in terms of dollars. I thought I was worth less than that, but yeah, I mean, not great, probably.
Initially, off the bat, gave yourself a 5. We'll dive into come the different financial habits and spending and tracking and monthly expenses, off the bat, I would not put you at a 5 with $17,000 of credit card debt. I mean, previously, let me know you went bankrupt in 2008, and now we got $17,000 worth of credit card debt, which is just not a good spot to be in because credit card debt, as you know, and are aware, is the interest rate on them is ridiculous. So you're paying way too much money. I mean, at 30% interest rate, you're paying at least $5,000 a year basically in interest to these credit card companies, which is just money that's instead of going in your pocket, it's going straight to the credit card companies. So we're gonna have to talk about a plan, figure out how do we get you out of this situation because it's not one that I want you to wake up 10 years from now and still have credit card debt. I want you to figure out, hey, how can we get out of this in the next 12 months, if not sooner, because I want you to be debt free and be able to start saving and investing money for when you do want to retire one day. And it's very difficult. It's impossible to save. It's impossible to invest and out invest credit card debt. So right now we can't even invest. We can't even save money if we got this whole pile of credit card debt right now. So we're going to be talking about it, figure out how can we do it? What are some tangible things that you can do to change the situation? But really, really appreciate all that background. So let's talk about education. Did you go to college? And if so, what'd you study?
I did, yeah. So I have a bachelor's degree. I went to University of California at Santa Cruz. Graduated in '95 with a bachelor's in women's studies.
And what has your kind of career path been since you've graduated?
I've been working since I was 17 years old. So I started working I had my very first job at 17 with a company that I loved called Entertainment Data Incorporated. And my career path has been largely administrative, some managerial. I have a lot of longevity with my companies. So the first company I worked for, I was there for 4 years. Then I had a 7-year stint with another company in Santa Cruz. So my career path has been like anywhere from like 7 to 10 years with a given company.
And what are your, if any, future career aspirations, goals? Do you want to stay in your current line of work? Do you want to change lines? What's your kind of career aspirations?
Right now for me, like I mentioned, I have been in a manager position with a few companies that I worked for. It's not really what I want to be doing anymore. Honestly, my aspirations are more as an individual contributor versus a people process leader. So right now I'm actually pretty happy with the position I'm in with Glory. I'm somebody who kind of doesn't mind being in the trenches. I'm very interested. I love like the work I do for them now is largely like investigative and trying to find out where bottlenecks are and what's going on with systems and processes. And I like that.
Awesome. Okay. Freelancing. You said you're freelance on the side as well. What does that work look like?
So that's kind of catch as catch can work. If there's a project that becomes available or if I get referred for something, a lot of times I will get referred for a job on that through word of mouth. I worked on something this past weekend that did require me to travel to Northern California, and that was a word of mouth project. So so it's typically on the higher end it can bring in. There was one job I did that spanned 3 days. That was $1,500 for 3 days of work, which was on the higher end. But it can span anywhere from like 100 to 3,000 per project.
Okay. And what would you say your total annual income from this freelance work is?
Oh, that's a great question. I actually just had that figure from my taxes because I just filed recently. I want to say for 2022, I think it was around 8 grand. I think 2022 was kind of a weird year, though. It wasn't some of the work I did freelancing was volunteer, so I didn't get it didn't make as much as I think I had done. 2019, I definitely made more.
Okay. And what's your expected income freelancing this year?
Oh, this year, I'd say it's probably going to be about 10,000.
And is that after you're counting for all expenses, travel expenses, business expenses, regards to that work, or is that prior to
Prior
those
to.
expenses?
Prior to.
Okay. And what does it look like profit on those after all expenses accounted for?
So yeah, depending on the project, it's like, so the one I just did, I'd still need to submit all my travel expenses to that one. I think they're covering half of it, if I'm not mistaken. So it looks like it's typically, you deduct like about 30 to 40% from the total.
Okay. So 10,000 in income from your freelance work this year, but probably going to have $3,000 to $4,000 worth of expenses. So somewhere between $6,000 and $7,000. That's actual tangible income.
Right.
After all
Right.
expenses accounted for.
Right.
Okay. So that put your income this year, put you in the ballpark of about $60,000, just over $60,000 between your 27 an hour job plus this freelance work. Obviously, you did have a time period where you weren't employed. So Obviously, it might be a little bit lower, but projected, if we keep it this pace for the next 12 months, same exact, then you'd be about that $60,000
Yeah.
ballpark over the
Yeah.
course of the next 12 months.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. Upbringing, childhood. What was your childhood like? Where'd you grow up? What was it like?
So I was born and raised in Los Angeles. I'm the youngest of five children. My father was a professor at UCLA, professor of chemistry, sole earner of the house. My mom didn't work. And yeah, you had mentioned before we started about how, this stuff is not talked about in families and it's not taught in school. And I sure didn't learn it. I sure did not. I was always kind of a spendthrift. I was one of those people that, I would get like maybe $50 for my birthday and I would spend it immediately. And, it wasn't, I remember the kind of the joke in my family around my dad was my dad and his creative financing. That was because like every couple of months or so, we would maybe get a call from a bill collector on a bill that like hadn't been paid. And my dad would kind of be like, oh, yeah, I'll get to it. So I don't think I really learned in my family taking care of money responsibly. And I certainly didn't learn it in school. And I think that, and I didn't learn it in college either. So I think that's money has always been an area for me that has been very nebulous. It's always been kind of one of those things where, I sort of have sort of an idea of what's going on, but not completely. Although I will say when I declared bankruptcy in 2008, that really forced me to get really on track with my spending. And it actually ended up being a really positive thing for me, even though it's not great. I certainly don't recommend it as a learning tool, but it did force me to really take a hard look at what I was spending and really rein that in.
It sounds like it stuck with you for a little bit, but then it seems like it kind of made you, or that kind of started falling off you the last year or so when we've been accumulating this credit card debt. So sounds like you learned your lesson in 2008, but then for the last 12 months, it looks like that those habits have kind of changed or it hasn't been looked at as
Well,
closely.
like most of my credit card debt is on food. It's been on like groceries. Like
You
that's
said
really like it hasn't been.
$17,000 in credit card debt for food right now? You can't
Yeah,
tell me you spend $17,000 on food in a year. My wife and I don't even spend $17,000 a year on food, and we eat out 3 or 4 times a week and buy groceries every single week.
yeah, but are you living in California?
I live I live in Atlanta, but you can't spend
Okay, come
17
on now. Come on
for
now.
what.
You can't compare Atlanta to California. We're paying we're over $6 a gallon for gas right now.
But gas is only a small percentage of your monthly expenses.
Yeah, but I mean,
So
you're paying like I pay $80 to fill my tank every
and
time I
so
pull out.
that's $80. You have $200 on your gas bill every single month. And so, yes, your gas is more expensive. Maybe it's in Atlanta, if we're paying it's like 320 right now,
Oh,
then it would be
what? Oh my God.
it technically would be $100, but $100 times 12, that's only $1,200 a year, not $17,000 is my point.
Yeah, I mean, again, it definitely started accumulating, I would say, because 2022 was the first year that I wasn't able to pay things off in full. So I had been like 2021. And also, I got like the stimulus, which really helped in 2020. Because 2020, I was fine, But yeah, there's definitely like, it wasn't from like, I wish I could say I was living lavishly and buying furs and jewels, but
It
that's
does
definitely
it
not.
doesn't take buying furs and jewels to get into $17,000 of credit
No,
card debt.
no,
Obviously, it
definitely
helps,
not.
but it takes just not tracking expenses, not budgeting, and just continuous habits that just build slowly over time. And those
Sure,
$50 Amazon transactions add up quickly over the course
they
of a
do.
year. So,
They do.
what's your current process when it comes to budgeting and tracking your monthly expenses and income?
I would say my process is yeah, I don't have a process.
Well, that's part of the reason you're in credit card debt then right now. So you can't expect to understand how much money you spend on things. You can't expect to build wealth or not go into credit card debt if you don't track any of your expenses.
Yeah, I don't.
And
My process is kind of like, oh, yeah, that's sort of going on over there. I'm just going to go do something else.
okay, well that's the main thing. We're gonna dive through these credit card transactions. If I had a guess right now, the statements you sent over, you probably haven't even looked at these or understood how much money you spent last month.
Probably not.
Okay.
I typically will look at stuff. I'll look for stuff that's fraudulent. If I'll check and make sure there's no fraudulent activity, but I don't go over my statements.
How much money do you think you spent last month?
Oh, no idea.
Ballpark, what would you say?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I maybe 1,000, 2,000 bucks. I don't know. No clue.
Well, considering the first credit card I opened has a $1,700 worth of purchases last month, I would assume we're spending a lot more than that. These other ones are a little bit lower. They're more in the ballpark of $100, $170, 138, 173, 25. So definitely over $2,000 worth of credit card purchase last month. Doesn't include rent, doesn't include car insurance, doesn't include, it looks like you took out $828 between debit card transactions, ATM, doesn't include rent on here either. So we definitely spent well over $3,000 on just expenses last month. That's me. The first thing we talk about, budgeting, is if you want to get out of this debt right now, we got to start figuring out a plan to get out of it. And that means we have to understand how much money you spend every single month, how much money is you're spending on groceries, on food, on eating out, on shopping, on things that are not necessary. So we can start figuring out what is that margin you have left over each month. If you're bringing in $3,109 every single month and your monthly expenses you sent over to me is $2,351, that means we should have $750 left over every single month if we're staying within these parameters, which means that $750 needs to go towards paying this credit card debt off. But right now, if that balance is increasing $1,000 every single month, that means we don't have that $750 margin left over. That means we're spending more money than you're bringing in, which means the credit card balances are going up. So on that note, we're going to talk about the monthly expenses. So you put your net income at $3,100 a month right now. I'm assuming that health insurance stuff is taken out of your paychecks.
No, I'm through Covered California, so it comes out of my credit cards. It's
Okay.
all set on like auto pay.
Okay, but $3,100, that's your new basically monthly income from your new job.
Yeah.
And then we have rent $1,000 a month right now. We've got car insurance $130. We've got gas $200, and we've got groceries $500. That brings your total necessities to $1,830. We got subscriptions $20. We got eating out $200. We've got personal care $150. We got shopping $150, which brings your total fund money budget to $520, which brings your total expenses to $2,351. So again, like I said, that means that is your income and your expenses you're living within, and you're kind of tracking that and keeping everything underneath that. You should have $757 left over every single month. And right now, it doesn't look like that. So we got to figure out, dive into these transactions, figure out where's all this money going and what can we do moving forward. Because if you set this budget up and you start tracking this and understand, okay, I only have $500 a month to spend on groceries. I have $200 for eating out, $1,500 a month, like you told me is why you have credit card debt. Then guess what? You're gonna be able to pay off this credit card debt. You're gonna be able to pay it down $750 more a month, basically. I guess the one thing we are missing right now is the minimum payments on the credit cards. You should have some margin left over. Do you know what your minimum payments on all the credit cards combined are a month?
I think they're all around 200 is the minimum payment. The minimum payment's pretty low on them, and I mean I was already like making the payment over that, with the exception of when I was laid off. I had to make the minimum payment, but right now I have them set to pay $1,500 a month.
Okay, I see one's $35, one's $45, one's $20, one's $157, which is the Marriott that has a $6,000 balance. Another one minimum payment is $96. Another one's 101. So we've got a wide range, a couple $100 worth of credit card transactions. Yeah, that's eating up a lot of the $750 that we should have left over every single month. So that means we got to dive into the expenses and figure out, where do we start? My first thing is, right now I see a Marriott card, I see a Chase card, I see, what are these other ones? A Citi one, I see, I think a second Citi one, a Discover one, a Marriott card, a PayPal credit card, a Southwest card. Do you think you're winning this credit card game with rewards? Because you said at the beginning of this, hey, I use this Chase card because I get rewards with it. Do you think you're winning this rewards game right now?
I think they are, because the house usually wins.
I think they're winning big time right now, because they got you on the hook right now for these minimum payments at 20, 30% interest rates. And guess what? They're offering you your 2% cash back on rewards. Yeah. So you're paying them 28% interest to get your 2% cash back, basically, which is not a good spot to be in, because it's very difficult to get out of cycle. So my suggestion would be to you is, we should cut up these credit cards. We should cancel them. We should put in the freezer, whatever it means to get them out of your wallet. Because if you continue to give yourself the opportunity to swipe these cards when you go to the store, to swipe them online, to put money on it, you're never going to get out of the cycle. Because guess what? That interest is going to keep accruing. You're going to find a reason or excuse to, hey, I'm going to swipe this card even though I'm not going to be paid off next month. And you're going to continue to swipe that, because that's what credit cards, why people get in credit card debt. I mean, we got over $1 trillion with credit card debt in America. And you're an individual that used to pay yours off in full every single month. And I can promise you, when you open your credit cards, you never thought, hey, I'm going to carry a balance on these.
No.
But, but here we are carrying a balance on them, and a $17,000 balance is not a small amount. And that's because you permitted the opportunity to even have that opportunity to put a balance on it by opening up so many credit cards. Now you have 6 or 7 or however many credit cards on here. I can't even count between all the different documents. 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, it's 6 or 7, it looks like. That just makes your expenses messy. That means tracking messy. If you're not budgeting your money every single month, that means you're just logging into each of these accounts, paying whatever payment you are, and not understanding the full amounts you're spending on it, the full amounts of the balances, and it just makes it so much more difficult to track. So my suggestion would be cancel the credit cards, cut them up, put in the freezer. I don't care what you do, as long as they're not in your wallet, you don't shop on them, put in the freezer, don't use them. Try to go 90 days without them. And I can promise you, you can go 90 days without using these cards. Because the credit card companies, you just said, the house wins. The house is winning a lot right now. I mean, they're making, if you're paying 30% interest rate on your credit cards, you're paying $5,000 a year in interest fees. And if you pay just the minimum payments on these, I mean, even the charts are on here. It's going to take you 9 years to pay off. It's going to take you 12 years to pay off. It's going to take you 13 years to pay off. I mean, these credit card companies have those details just in the fine, or not in the fine print, on the main page of these statements. And I don't want you to be sitting here for the next 10, 12, 13 years trying to pay off these credit card balances just by paying the minimum. We got to take some drastic measures to get out of this drastic situation. I mean, it's not a pretty situation having $17,000 of credit card debt. So suggestion number 1, cancel the credit cards, cut them up, put them in the freezer, and see if you can go 9 days without spending on that. Because I can promise you, you'll be a lot more mindful of your spending if you just look at your debit card. Because you'll log in, you'll see how much money's on your debit card in your bank account. And if that means you only have $1,000 in there, you'll probably think twice about that Amazon purchase. You'll probably think twice about buying whatever at the store. And that will just make you be a lot more intentional and just more intentional about understanding where your money's going. And you're going to think twice about traveling and spending the extra money on something that you might not be getting paid enough for, or traveling when you're not even getting paid. So it's just going to make you be a lot more mindful about it. Does that make sense?
It does.
What's your take on that? Is that something you're willing and open to trying?
Yeah, I'm open to trying it. The only thing that I'm thinking about, like, canceling them, is I don't know what that'll do to my FICO. Because I think when you cancel cards, the FICO doesn't like that.
So I hate the overemphasis of credit score in America, frankly, because a lot of people like credit score means everything to me. And I need a high credit score. I need to open a credit card. I need to have a car loan. I need to have this loan to have a good credit score. And that's what puts people in situations where they sign a car loan that they can't afford for the next 6 years, or they're opening up, trying a bunch of credit cards, trying to play the credit card game, find themselves in credit card debt. I don't know what your credit score is right now. Canceling credit cards, yes. Will your score go down? Probably. But your credit score is also going to is down right now because your utilization is so high in your credit cards.
Yeah.
And if you're missing payments, if you're not paying the minimum payments, your credit score is going to go down because of that. So the best way to improve your credit score is pay off all the credit cards. And yes, you might take a temporary hit for canceling credit cards, but I would rather have a low credit score and not have credit card debt than worry about my picture perfect credit score and having credit card debt. I mean, I have a high 700, 800 credit score, and I've never carried a balance on my credit card. I've never had a car loan. I'm fortunate to be in that situation where I haven't, but you can also have a high credit score by never carrying a balance. So you don't have to worry about keeping these cards open. You don't have to worry about what is going to happen. Really, your main focus should be paying off debt. I mean, how many people have asked for your credit score in the last 3 years?
Actually, yeah, because I think even when I rented this apartment in LA with my buddy, I don't even know if they asked for our credit card score, to be honest. Can't remember.
I mean, that's the main thing that people worry about is like, okay, renters, sometimes they do ask for your credit score. When I rent an apartment or a house with friends, they ask for our credit score. But there's other ways you can go about that by saving up probably a higher security deposit, first month's, last month's, whatever it might be, previous landlords' references. But the overemphasis on credit scores is just something that can put you in a lot of trouble as much as you think it's trying to help you. So, and again, if it comes down to, okay, I want to keep my oldest line of credit open, and that's a credit card you've had for 20 years, then okay, keep that open, put it in the freezer, and don't use it. And
why the freezer?
That's what George Camel, he's one of Dave Ramsey's personalities. I heard him say that, put in the freezer, and that's just something that I've just...
I was like, is it like batteries? Like, does it preserve the card better if you put it in the freezer?
I guess so. But that way you're not going to go in the freezer before you go to the store and take it out and go swipe it. So it just puts an odd spot versus you put it in your stock drawer, you put it in on the counter, like you're going to figure out a way to spend it. So I don't care if you go bury it in the backyard, or you go bury it in a box far, far away in your closet. Put it out of sight in a spot where you don't access it, you won't access it, and you don't see it.
Mhm.
On the note, let's look in the transaction. So which card should we start with? Should we start with the Marriott card? That's
Sure,
the
sure.
largest balance. Okay, so I see there's two different documents for this. So looks like your balance was $5,926. Your minimum payment is $157 on this. So if you pay the minimum payment only, it'll take you 17 years to pay this off.
Mhm.
You won't just pay the $5,900, you'll pay
Right.
$14,802
And
over the course of that
interest. Yeah.
17 years. Because each month, if you pay $157, $98 is going towards interest,
Yeah.
and the remaining 50 something dollars is going
Goes to the
towards paying
principal.
down the principal. That's going to take
Yeah.
you a long time to do it.
Yeah.
So last month on this card, you did pay more than the minimum. You paid $500. But the issue is we spent $1,739 on this card in one statement period. So you did a good job paying more than the minimum, but then we just counteracted that by spending $1,700 on this card. Are you aware that you spent that much money on that card last month?
Kind of. I mean, that sounds about right, probably.
Okay, so let's see where all this money went. I don't know what Vioc in Redondo Beach for $194.
Oh, that's Valvoline. That's for my car.
Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Target, Whole Foods. Why do you go to Salad Bar? How many different places do you go to get food in about a 2-day time period?
I have a couple different places here. So Trader Joe's, grocery outlet, Whole Foods. I don't go to as much, obviously, because of the pricing. Yeah, I'll say like 3 to 4.
What's stopping you from going to the grocery store once a week versus right now it looks like you go a bunch of different times?
The prices at like grocery outlet are much better, but their selection, sometimes they don't have exactly what I need. So I'll have to go to like Walmart or Target for what I need. But grocery outlet has such great prices. They charge like anywhere from like 40% less than like a retail grocer.
So I would suggest, and what I tell people too is, if you're going grocery shopping, go once a week. It will limit how much you spend on money because you go there with a list on whether it's Saturday, Sunday, Monday, whatever day you want to do. You have a list, you stick to it. It puts you less chances of going to the grocery store when you're hungry. It puts you less chances to grab stuff off the shelf that you don't need because grocery stores are good at that. They have the end cap units that are things that they know you're going to grab. I mean, you go in there a little bit hungry, you're going to buy 5 different things that you don't actually need. So go once a week, make a list and go and only buy that. But right now, I mean, we have so many different transactions on here for different grocery stores. I can promise you, if you go once a week, you'll spend less money on groceries because you'll go in there with the intent of, hey, I'm going here once this week. I have to buy everything I need and that's it. Versus right now, if you go on Monday and then you go on Thursday to only get one thing, I can promise you're probably going home with multiple things that you didn't realize you had the intent of going there with. Target, $28. What are you buying at Target on September 1st?
That was probably groceries.
Okay, so that was Trader Joe's, Target, and Whole Foods all basically within 24 hours of each other you went to. And again, that's another thing. You're going to 3 different places for that. And then we got Salad Bar for $12 and Nana's Empanadas for $55. So eating out right now, Jimmy John's right after that. So eating out when you got $17,000 worth of credit card debt, right now you're putting the short-term satisfaction of a fast food or a restaurant cooked meal over long-term financial health.
Right.
And as you mentioned in this, yes, dining out costs have gone up. Takeout costs have gone up. And you can cook a meal for a lot cheaper at home than you can by going and ordering takeout or dining in somewhere. Because you got tip, you got all those different things.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
when you got $17,000 of credit card debt, we should be avoiding takeout at all costs.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to help your current financial situation. And these are choices that you're going to have to make is, do I want to eat out this much or do I want to get a credit card debt?
Right.
And you can't really have in your current situation, unless the income increases drastically, you have to pick and choose. You don't really have much option besides picking and choosing between those two.
Yeah.
And if you kind of go halfway between it, I can promise you'll kind of start oozing back into the bad habits of eating out too frequently. We got more Walmart, more Trader Joe's. What is Tolovid for $127 in New York?
Oh, that's a supplement that I take.
Vitamins and nutrients and supplements are important for health. What is Arco for $78?
Gas.
There's your $6 gas right there. Klarna, $23 for Klarna. That's debt we didn't talk about. How many Klarna payments do we have right now?
Oh, Klarna. I don't know how many. I think I have 2 right now. I did a little bit of spree shopping at the end of last month, but I returned a ton of it. So a lot of it's going to be refunded.
Suggestion again. Credit cards are Klarna is just as bad as credit cards.
Yeah.
Yes, they have 0% interest rates for 4 months, 5 months, whatever it is. But again, it just opens up opportunity for bad habits. So we got to stay away from those because it's not helping your financial health, financial future at all. It's the same thing as carrying a balance on your credit card. And hey, I can afford this $23 a month payment now, but guess what? You get laid off or something happens or an emergency comes up. Guess what? Those $25 payments and you have 5 of those add up quickly. What is Residence Inn? Why are you traveling to a Residence
Oh,
Inn?
that was Mary. So that was on. I think that was on the 8th.
Yeah.
And that was I actually got a free night, but I still had to pay for parking.
Was that for work or for pleasure or for?
That was because our power was out at the apartment, and I sleep with a white noise machine, so I was not going to be able to sleep that night unless I went to a motel or a hotel.
We've got El Polo Loco for $16. We got Fix and Soul's Kitchen for $57. We got more El Polo Loco. So again, eating out way too much right now. We got to be cutting back on that. This is more than $200 a month eating out. And then we've got 3 beautiful Klarna payments for $43, $23, and $26. That's $100 in Klarna payments right there, plus the other $23 one right there. So over $100 a month in Klarna payments. That could be going towards paying off credit card debt.
Yeah, and the $43, that one's actually been reversed. That's been refunded because that was a return.
Good. We want those refunds and returns right now because can't be doing that. Okay, so the next card we got is the Amazon card. You had a balance of $351. You paid $351, but then we made $508 in purchases last month on this card. So you went from could have had that card paid off in full to swiping $500 on it in last month. And these are all Amazon transactions. Every single one of these $508 is an Amazon transaction. What did you spend $508 on Amazon for last month?
I'm trying to remember what I spent on Amazon. Like there's some things that I kind of can't get at store, like the brick and mortar stores. So sometimes it's toiletries. It's usually supplements.
You spend $500 a month on supplements?
Not a month, but I will definitely spend I mean, it can. I have one supplement that I take that's an iron supplement because I'm iron deficient, and that one's pretty pricey. It's like a $60 supplement.
Okay, that's 60 out of the $500. What is the other $440?
It's usually personal care products.
So if we got personal care, I mean, you put on your budget $150 for personal care. But we got if you're saying all $500 of this is personal care and you got the $120-some supplements in the last budget, I mean, it's $625.
Yeah.
We can't be spending $600 on personal care right now when we got $70,000 of credit card debt. Amazon cards are the epitome of the house is winning. Amazon's got you roped in right now thinking, hey, by using this Amazon credit card, you get free whatever rewards that come with it. But it's just causing you to spend money that you can't afford. So suggestions would be cancel Amazon Prime and cancel his Amazon credit card, because Amazon Prime, when you're in credit card debt, is the easiest thing to continue that cycle. One tap purchase is the easiest thing in the world to order. It is the most convenient. It is probably one of the best inventions, companies, whatever you want to call it out there, because you can get something delivered to your door in a few hours or overnight. But it also puts you in a cycle where it's so easy to order on your phone that you'll have it there tomorrow and you'll spend more money than you can afford. And you can't be doing that right now. And so you got to be making these choices. Am I going to spend $500 a month on Amazon, or am I going to cut that out? And the true necessities, because I can promise you that $500, we could go through that transaction list and find things that are not necessities that you didn't need to buy last month. And deleting the Amazon Prime phone app off your phone by getting rid of that credit card, I can promise you'll spend at least a couple $100 a month less overall just by getting rid of those. Do you think that's true or no?
I definitely think it's true.
Are you going to do it is the question.
I kind of like having Prime, I'm going to be honest, because, if I do make a purchase and there's any kind of issue with it, they fix it right away. So
any money you don't have.
Yeah, I mean, they actually refunded my Prime this year because there was an issue with something I purchased that was a fraudulent product, and I actually got them to refund the Prime because they didn't do their due diligence in protecting.
You shouldn't feel bad canceling your Prime and never using it because it was free for this year. I can promise you, if you keep Prime open, if you keep this credit card open, you'll continue to be in the cycle of spending more money on Amazon than you can afford. And frankly, I deleted Prime off my phone. When my wife and I moved into our house 18 or so months ago, I had 10 Amazon boxes at my door basically every single day. And at the end of the month, I was like, this is ridiculous. I looked how much money I'd spent on Amazon, and I was like, this is absurd. Why am I doing this? And the only thing that I could think of to get rid of it was, I'm going to delete the app off my phone. Guess what? I deleted the app off my phone. I started being a lot more conscious how much stuff we're ordering on Amazon. Guess what? My spend on Amazon went down probably like 90-something%. And if you really, truly need those things from Amazon, guess what? Go to the store. You go to Whole Foods and Target 6 times a week right now. You go to Walmart. You can get those exact same things. I can guarantee Walmart, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, or Target has basically everything that you need between those 4 conglomerates. So Amazon, yes. Is it efficient? Is it easy and accessible? 100%. But it also is easy and accessible for you to spend way too much money on things that you shouldn't be spending money on.
Yeah, I can see that.
Suggestion would be get rid of that. And then we have the Chase Freedom Card. $1,977 of transactions last month. So his balance was $34. You paid it off with $41 you paid, and then we added $1,900 on it. So I was wrong. You said you probably spent $2,000 last month. I said it was about $3,000. Between this card alone and the Marriott card, we're over $3,600. And that doesn't account for rent. So if you rent $1,000, doesn't account for car insurance. I mean, we're north of $4,500 right now. And guess what? We got more Walmart on these things, more Trader Joe's, more Target. Again, just going to all these different places continuously is just going to hurt you. We got Staples for $132 at Staples. What are you buying at Staples for $132?
So I have a printer because I have a home office. So I had to buy, that was expensive because I had to buy toner and paper, and toner's pricey.
Okay.
And my old job used to pay for that, but I'm not getting reimbursed for that now.
Afterpay, $10. So we got more Afterpay stuff on here. Groupon, what are you buying on Groupon for $160?
That was personal care stuff.
So we got personal care over like $800 this month now.
Yeah.
That's out of control. We got Vons for $59. We got Holland International for $60. We got Vons again for $42. We got Walmart for $68. We got more Target for $34. We got more Afterpay on here for $41. We got more Afterpay for $75. Got more Target, more Whole Foods, more Afterpay for $22, more Afterpay for $12. So Afterpay and Klarna love you right now.
Yeah, and a lot of the Afterpay got refunded because, again, those were returned items. So
I don't care if they got refunded. It's just more of the fact of doing it, and you're getting caught into. I mean, frankly, they have one of the best marketing pitches in the world. Is you can buy this and you can split into 4.
Yeah. It's very alluring.
It's a very phenomenal marketing pitch ploy to get people to sign up and do it. Trust me, I think it's phenomenal advertising. But the issue is you're falling into that cycle, and yes, some of it might have gotten refunded, but I can guarantee all of it didn't. And it's just causing you to spend money and buy things that you should not be buying right now. But don't worry, you did get your $1.75 back in cash back, it looks like, on this card for this month. So we spent $1,900, but we got $1 back in cash back. So let's see what else we have in terms of cards. We have this City card, which it looks like you only made about $100 in purchases, about $138. What is Outdoor Research Seattle?
Oh, that was some gloves, hiking gloves, but those are getting returned because I thought I had lost my old pair, so I bought a replacement pair, but then I found the old pair, so those are going back.
How many things do you think you've ordered over the last year that you ordered and you could have returned, but you didn't end up returning and you never used them?
I return a lot of stuff, so not a lot. Like if I don't end up using something, I return it. And I've returned stuff even that I've worn and returned. I'm the queen of holding on to receipts.
But not the queen of tracking the receipts and understanding how much money you're spending.
I mean, I hold them and they go in a drawer, and that's,
That doesn't do much for you when you understand how much money you're spending. Okay, now on this Discover card, we have Groupon for $372. That looks like we got Groupon for $372. We got Groupon for $720. We got Groupon for $899 and Groupon for $131. We then have refunds for about $700, but we purchased about $2,000 worth of stuff on Groupon. What is that?
That's personal items.
$2,000 worth of personal items?
It's related to my freelance work.
Are you getting paid to cover all of that?
I deduct it from my taxes.
But how much are you getting paid for that?
I don't get paid for that because that's, it's for my personal appearance.
The deductions mean you're still losing money on it. I mean, that's $2,000 that you would have had if you did not spend it. And yes, you get to deduct it. So in theory, your taxable income will, clean easy math, say it was $50,000 is now $48,000. So you're not paying $600 in taxes roughly, but you still spent $2,000. So you're still losing out on $1,400 there. And you can't afford this right now.
Yeah, it's kind of stuff that I need to get hired for my freelance stuff, so
I can promise you don't need $2,000 worth of stuff to get hired for your family.
If you're a dude, it's different for men.
If you made $8,000 last year doing freelance work without that $2,000 purchase you made 7 days ago, I can promise you, and you're on track to make $10,000 this year, I can promise you didn't need that $2,000 worth of stuff for personal appearance. I can promise you that. And
Again, it's different for women, honey. Men
these
can
are
get
the
away with not taking care of themselves.
I understand women have different personal care things that they need, but we have $500 in Amazon personal care. We have 125 of that other stuff. We have $2,000 here. I mean, that is close to $3,000 in a single month you've spent on personal care. And I can promise you, you don't need to spend $2,700 a month on personal care things. I can promise you. So that between that Chase card, between the Discover card, and between the Marriott card, we're now over $5,500 in expenses last month alone on credit cards, which is outrageous when you're making $3,100 a month. That's
Yeah,
not sustainable.
I see the disparity.
And then we have a PayPal card. Thankfully, you only made $173 on this, but you only paid down $100. And those are the good old DoorDashes. So we got DoorDash for $17, DoorDash for $18, and then Cold PLASU.
Oh, that was a skin cream.
Okay, so more personal care for $137. So personal care is approaching $3,000 for last month. And then we got DoorDash eating out. Basically a cash advance, it looks like, because you have an interest charge on cash advance for $31 and then interest charge on purchase for $35. So you paid $67 in interest last month towards this PayPal credit card.
Yeah. I made a payment, a big payment towards it. I think because it was originally like over $4,000, and then I paid off a little over $2,000 on it.
Yeah, but shows the balance on this is $2,800 right now.
Yeah.
And then we have the Southwest card, which that balance is $3,800 or no, $3,600 to end the statement period. So you made $200 worth of payments and only spent $25. So this is the first credit card out of however many we've gone through so far that the balance actually went down at the end of the month, which is, I'm happy to see one has done that. I mean, looking through all these credit card transactions, we spent over $5,000 last month on these, and this doesn't even account for your debit card transactions. And looking at your debit card transactions, you had $828 in ATM and debit card withdrawals. You have Venmo transactions for $250. I guess that's coming into your account, actually.
Yeah, Venmo is, yeah.
We have an $800 payment on Cash App. What is that?
Oh, yeah, that's for rent.
Okay, that's your rent right there. We've got Verizon, your phone bill for $70. We're paying YouTube $20 a month, it looks like right now.
Yeah, no, I think that was for like a purchase. That was a video purchase on YouTube. I don't pay them $20 a month.
Okay, we got Macy's for $21. We got Peacock TV for $5.99 there. Overall, we spent over $6,000 last month between all the credit cards, between your rent, between car insurance. Probably close to $6,500 if we actually added all this up. Maybe even $7,000. I'm proud of you because you got a new job, started that last month, but then you got that and you decided to go crazy spending money last month.
Yeah, I kind of went a little overboard.
And I can promise you that $5,500 in credit card debt, if I had every single item, if we went through every single one and had an exact picture of what you ordered on Amazon or Groupon or whatever it is, I can promise you could have thrown out thousands of dollars worth of transactions there that were non-necessities, that you would still be alive today. You'd still have your job. You still have freelance gigs if we not order those.
And that's not kind necessarily the freelance gigs.
How many freelance gigs have you booked because of that $3,000 in purchase last month?
I actually did pretty well this month.
How much?
I would say probably about 1,000.
Okay,
month.
So still didn't return on the investment yet on that $3,000 investment. So
no.
Maybe you had spent $500 to get that $1,000, and I say, great, that's good. You can do that. You're spending money, and maybe it's getting those gigs, but you can't be spending $3,000 to return $1,000 when you're $17,000 in credit card debt.
Yeah.
And these are the choices you have to make. Is this month is, hey, guess what? I want to go buy this thing on Amazon, but I'm going to hold off on it until I get out of this credit card debt because it's just going to put you a step back. And it's just going to put you into this vicious cycle because you're going to be able to come up with a reason to justify any purchase under the sun, whether it's for business or it's for personal.
Sure.
And you have to start drawing that line now as, hey, I'm only going to travel if I'm getting paid for it. So if someone's willing to pay you $1,000, that means you have to travel and you're going to pay $250 in travel stuff. Okay, that means you make $750. Great. But if you have to go spend $3,000 on personal care things just to get a $1,000 job, that math doesn't add up.
Yeah.
And you have to start making those decisions now to start improving your financial situation. And the monthly spending is out of control. I mean, $6,000, bringing in $3,100 a month is just, that credit card debt's going to be $50,000 next year if you don't change something now. And I'm shocked, frankly, it didn't go up more after you got laid off. Did you have a severance after you got laid off?
I had a severance for a month, and then I was on unemployment.
Okay. I'm surprised, frankly, that it was about $15,000 before you got laid off. And it sounds like this credit card debt honestly has scaled $2,000 or $3,000 over the last month compared to previous months. So it's going fast now that you have a job, which should be the opposite. Now that you're back employed, it means you're going down, not going up. So you've lived without these things the previous months. That means we can live without them now until we get out of this situation.
Mm.
But yeah, right now you got to cut these credit cards. You got to stop using them. You got to, whatever it takes, canceling them, cutting them up, putting them on in the farthest spot in your closet. I don't care what it is. You have to do something to get these out of your hand, out of your life, because they're causing you to spend. And guess what? When you sent me this budget, you had $382 in your debit card. Now you got about 6,000. So it's gone up. But if you had only been using debit card and you had $380, you would have been spending $3,000 on personal care last month.
Yeah,
I
true,
can,
true,
I can promise you that.
sure.
Or if you only had $1,000 in there, you wouldn't be spending $800. You wouldn't be spending 80% of your bank account on personal care when you got rent due in a week.
Yeah.
So you really have to start understanding where your money's going, controlling it, and stop using credit cards, because they're allowing you to have these bad habits. They sound great with the rewards, but the rewards only work if you spend less money and you pay it off in full every single month.
Right.
And
Yeah,
even
sure.
then, even if you're paying off in full every single month, there's probably a high likelihood that you would actually spend more than 2% less every single month than if you only use a debit card.
Mhm.
So you really have to start making these changes with this. Have you, let's talk about paying off the debt now. So have you heard of the debt snowball route?
No. Mm-mm.
Do you know who Dave Ramsey is?
I don't.
Okay, so I'll send you links to Dave Ramsey stuff. He has awesome, phenomenal content about paying off debt, getting out of debt, and he has what it's called the 7 baby steps. So baby step number 1 is build up an emergency fund of $1,000. Baby step number 2 is list your debts from smallest to largest and pay them off using the debt snowball method, which in this instance we'll call it 7 different credit cards. And you'll list those from smallest balance to largest balance. So the smallest balance is $500. Next one is $1,000. The next one is $2,000. Next is $3,000. Next is $4,000. You'll list them that way. And you'll pay the minimum payments on all the credit cards except the smallest balance. So the minimum payments totals, we'll call it $400 a month. And then you have an extra $400 a month left over after that. That extra $400 is going to go towards paying off the smallest balance. And once you've paid off the smallest balance card, you'll then roll that minimum payment and all that extra into the next smallest balance card. And you'll continue that cycle and start getting momentum, because once you pay one off, it frees up that minimum payment. You can move that to the next card, and then the next card, and the next card, and work your way up. You got to start doing that, because right now, looking at your cards, you're trying to pay more than minimum payments across multiple different cards.
Mhm.
And it probably doesn't look like you're making much progress. You're probably like, okay, I'm paying more than minimum payments, but it's not going down. And if you put all your energy towards one car, that balance can go down quicker and you get rid of those cards a lot quicker.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
And also psychologically, it's great because you pay off one credit card. Okay, great. Maybe I can do this. And then you pay off 2. You're like, okay, I think I can actually do this. You get to the third one and you're going to be unstoppable once you pay that one off. And you just start getting momentum like a snowball rolling down the hill. So that's what I'll do. And I'll send you resources and stuff on learning about the debt snowball route. But when you got this many credit cards and wide range of balances, using that is going to be the most beneficial to you, especially when right now you're kind of spreading yourself way too thin across all the different cards. You're trying to pay $200 here, $1,000 here, $500 here, $100 here, minimum payment here, and that just spreads you out across the board. When you intensely focus on one at a time, when paying the minimum payments to the others, you're going to see progress a lot faster and start getting
That makes
going
sense.
around.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Let's talk about financial mistakes. So 2008, tell me the backstory on that, bankruptcy and all.
Yeah, so 2008, I was at a 6-figure job. I was making a ton of money, but I was outspending. I had a serious shopping habit. I was spending it was funny actually. I was just looking over my records in like 2008 of like all the money I spent at like Neiman. I basically kept Neiman Marcus in business in the 2000s. And I was making a 6-figure salary and I was bouncing checks. And all of a sudden I think at that time I was $50,000 in credit card debt.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was trying to pay it off. I was like taking money out of my IRA to try to pay it. I was making the minimum. I mean, I had one American Express card that I think the balance was like $30,000 on that. And it was just completely unmanageable. I wasn't sleeping at night. I was like freaked out. And I declared bankruptcy, and I had a no asset case, because I didn't own like multiple homes. I didn't, I think I did was it chapter 7? I can't remember what I did, but it was actually I remember my tax attorney at the time just saying this is like the easiest case I've ever had to file, because, it was very straightforward and all the debt was forgiven. I didn't have to pay any of it. But it was a good lesson for me, because I mean, I had allowed my spending to get so out of control.
But you moved back to those habits is the issue right now. Is you learned
Yeah,
your
I
lesson
mean, this has
and you kept
been,
it clean for 10 years or 14 years, and then
yeah.
we're going out of control again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not as bad as it was, but it's definitely sort of veering in that direction.
It definitely is. If you're spending $6,000 a month for the next 12 months, you're going to be in that exact same situation
Yeah,
12 months from now.
I'm not gonna do that. Like the Groupon stuff has stopped. Like because I and part of my reason for wanting to do this was to like take a hard look at it and go, yeah, like this has to stop. Like the eating out has to stop. Like the takeout, like it all has to stop.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I mean, I can't imagine '08 proof right there. You're making a six-figure salary and still living above your means. And that's common in America today. I mean, right
Yeah,
now in America, it's like 49% of Americans making over six figures are living paycheck to paycheck.
yeah,
And that's
yeah.
because you get a pay raise and you go and finance a new car, you go shopping,
Right,
or you
right.
order $3,000 worth of stuff on Groupon in a single month. And you just start building up these bad financial habits. It goes to show that whether you're making $50,000, you're making $100,000, you're making $200,000, you have to track your spending, you have to understand where it's going, and you have to live below your means. The only way to build wealth is to spend less money than you make.
Yeah,
There's no mathematical way to build wealth unless you're spending less money than you're bringing in,
yeah.
because otherwise you're going to be carrying on debt, your bank account's going to be overdrafted, and these are things that you have to change. And I don't want you to be in the same situation as you were in '08. I don't want this to be 12 months from now. We're doing a catch up call and you're asking, hey, should I file bankruptcy again? I don't want to get
I
anywhere
actually
close to that.
thought about filing bankruptcy again, but I was like, I don't really want to do that, and I think by
Don't even put that
making
as an
lifestyle
option.
choices, I can shift this.
Don't even make that an option, because right now it's showing that filing bankruptcy is not going to solve your problems. Because yes, will it wipe away the debt? Yes, it will. But if this happened in '08, this is happening again now. Guess what? These are habits that we have to change.
Yeah,
Bankruptcy is just a short-term solution. It is
yeah.
not instilling and changing the current spending habits, the current money management habits, and you have to change that. Otherwise, if you filed bankruptcy tomorrow, debt was gone, I can promise you we do a catch-up call 10 years from now, we'll be in the exact same situation,
Mhm.
because that is just a short-term solution to a very long-term problem.
Yeah, sure.
And I don't want that right now, for you to be able to retire one day, for you to be able to not have to solely depend on Social Security, is we have to start making drastic changes to these spending habits so that we
Mhm.
can pay off this debt in the next 12 months. And then we can start saving and investing money so that when you're 67 or 70 and you want to retire, who knows what Social Security is going to be, but at least hopefully you can have saved and invested and have a nest egg saved up so that you have actually some optionality in your life. But
Well,
right
I'm just
now,
planning on being dead at 67, so that's my
you,
retirement plan.
you don't want to do that. No, that is a horrible
My
plan.
retirement plan is death.
That is horrible. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Oh, but you have to start planning, figuring out what is your plan moving forward. Even you're like, hey, I want to depend on Social Security only. It's like you can't have $15,000 or $30,000 worth of credit card debt when you live on Social Security, because guess what? Majority of that Social Security checks and go straight towards debt payments.
Yeah.
So you got to solve this soon, and you got to start solving it now. And are fortunate, you do have a positive net worth right now of $20,000. We got $17,000 worth of debt, high interest debt, that we have to solve in the next 12 months, I would say,
Mhm.
and really solve and put the situation behind us, and never, ever, ever carry balance again. Never, ever use a credit card again. Never, ever use Klarna or Afterpay or any of those again, so that you can actually start enjoying life. And I want you to be in a spot where you pay off this credit card debt, you start saving some money, setting aside for retirement, investing. But then guess what? We can start allocating some money towards eating out, towards shopping, towards personal care, within reason, obviously. But right now, all your money is going to credit card debt. None of it's going to savings. You can't be in a position where you can enjoy life or spend on things you want to do without thinking, hey, this is all going towards a balance. And you're going to start having sleepless nights if you don't start taking action on this, because
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure.
this
Yeah.
balance is going to creep up and hit $20,000 before we know it. It's going to hit $25,000 before we know it. I mean, that's only 1 or 2 months away of these current spending habits. And so you got to start really just taking control of your actions today, start budgeting, start tracking your spending, and start saying, really looking at every single decision, every single purchase. Do I need this right now? Or can I wait until I'm out of debt and then I can start building in that into my budget to purchase these types of items? Does that make sense?
It does.
What advice would you give to someone else in this current financial situation?
Don't do this.
So what
Or
are you going to
find
do
a
after this?
rich man who will pay your debt. No, I mean, I would say impulse control is important. If you impulse buy, which I definitely am guilty of, I'm definitely an impulse buyer. And unfortunately, social media makes that really easy because I have a lot of stuff on my Instagram stream that Instagram knows what I like. So I would say, sit on like if you want to purchase something, like sit on it for 24 hours. Like don't just click and buy. Like just sit on it, go, wait a minute, let me look at this, because I think the instant gratification piece is really seductive in the United States. Like, we can just get whatever we want. Like with Amazon, we can get it right like tomorrow or later that day. So I think like really having just, sitting on something, like going like, okay, if I still really want this in 24 hours, then I can look at it again. But let me stop. And I mean, and I say that as much for myself as anybody else.
Yeah. No, and I think if you mixture of waiting 24 hours to purchase it and using a debit card, I can promise you your spending will be reduced by way too much money, thousands of dollars every single month. If you
Yeah.
sit on it for 24 hours and you only use a debit card, you will start doing that.
Yeah.
So my tips and thoughts for you moving forward is right now you have to start budgeting. You have to start understanding where all your money is going. Without budgeting, without a plan, you're never going to be able to waltz out of this debt. You're not going to be able to just magically wake up and $17,000 worth of credit card debt's going to be gone one day. And you can't just put on blinders and hope that you can just figure it out without tracking, without understanding it. So you really have to budget, have to understand where your expenses are, what criteria you're going to hold yourself to on groceries every single month, on everything else. I mean, the non-necessities, the eating out, the shopping, the personal care, those have to be pared back to the extreme. If you need vitamins, put yourself at $100 a month vitamins or whatever it is, but don't go spend $3,000 on personal care things. You have to be cutting all unnecessary purchases to be able to get out of the situation. If your income was $150,000 or $200,000, okay, maybe we could have a little bit of wiggle room for more non-necessities. But right now, with your current income, with your current debt, it's just you have to cut to the bare bone.
Yeah.
Next is cut up the credit cards. Put them in the freezer. Put them wherever. Don't use them. You need to take a vow from this day forward is I'm not going to use a credit card again, because you found yourself in $50,000 worth of credit card debt in 2008. You found yourself in $17,000 worth of credit card debt now. The house is winning. The house loves you right now. They love that after you filed bankruptcy and you opened up your first credit card, however many years later, they loved when your name popped back up in the system, because they knew 5-10 years later, they were going to have you again and having you keeping their lights on. And
Yeah.
they are winning this game. Your rewards are not winning this game. So you need to stop using that and only use a debit card. Lastly is if you're freelancing, great. I want you to freelance. I want you to figure out how can you get that income from $8,000 to $15,000 to $20,000. And that additional income needs to be going towards paying this debt off. That can help speed you up a lot quicker. But the issue is right now, you're spending $3,000 last month on things you're saying for freelancing, which if you're bringing $8,000 or $10,000 this year and $3,000 of that of expenses this month, I can promise you there's probably $5,000 worth of other transactions this month for freelancing stuff, which is making your freelance about break even, which you're better off going to get a job at somewhere else, pay you hourly than spending however many hundreds of hours this year freelancing for making a couple $100 after you account for all your expenses.
I should still work for El Pollo Loco, because then I would just get free chicken.
There you go. That's an option too. But you really, I want you to freelance. I want you to chase that, but it has to be profitable. It has to make sense financially to be doing it. And if they're saying,
I need to get a little more hard line with people. I definitely have been very soft with people in terms of like travel and spend, and like in this project I did over the weekend. I know I'm going to be reimbursed for some of the travel expenses, but I think that's something where I should have been more hard line of saying, this is what I need to do this. And if you can't do it, that's fine. But that's something where I need to be more forward thinking versus being passive, because I've always been kind of a passive with my money.
Yeah. And 100%. And if someone's offering to pay you, say, $1,000, but then you have to go do somewhere for 3 days and you got to pay $600 in travel expenses and not reimbursing, that's $400 after California taxes. You're sitting at like $200 for 3 days of work. It's not worth your time. You're better off go work at El Pollo Loco for free chicken, basically, at that point. So you really have to start analyzing those decisions too, mathematically and financially. Is this worth your time? Can you make more money elsewhere? Can you make more money Uber Eating or Door Dashing than traveling somewhere for 6 days at a time and not making any money at the end of the day? Last thing is start educating yourself. It's difficult to get out of debt. It's difficult to understand the ins and outs of finances because it's not taught enough in schools. It wasn't taught in your home. It's not taught in most homes in America. So you have to start finding resources to learn. Proud of you for coming on here and being open and transparent about your finances. And hopefully this was beneficial to you start analyzing and looking at your finances. But you have to start educating yourself after this. And I'll send you a bunch of resources to look at after this. Dave Ramsey or Meet Sadie, Money with Katie. All these different people have a lot of great resources about finances overall. And you need to start educating yourself about it, about budgeting, about paying off debt. And then once we get debt paid off, we got to start learning about saving and investing. And you have to start educating yourself because no one can force you to save. No one can force you to learn about money. The only person that can do that is yourself. I can send you these resources, but I can't force you to watch them.
Sure.
And you have to start educating yourself. You have to start learning. And then you have to start, most importantly, applying those lessons that you learned. And you have to start realizing that, hey, if you want to retire at 67, you want to retire at 70, what are your financial goals, that amount of money you need to have by the time you reach that age? And then you can backtrack. Okay, this is how much money I need to start saving and investing after I get paid off this credit card debt to reach those goals.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be easy, frankly, sitting at 50 and having 70,000 worth of credit card debt. It's going to take you a year to pay this off at least. And then you have to start saving,
51.
investing.
I'm
51.
51.
Okay. And then you're going to have to
Well, thank
start.
you for deducting a year. I appreciate that.
You're
I can see
welcome.
the personal care is paying off.
It is. And then you have to start backtracking how much you start saving and investing to reach those financial goals by the time you're 67 or 70. Because I don't want you to wake up when you're 65, 70, wanting to retire, and Social Security doesn't cover the bills. You have nothing to pull from. You only have what's in your current IRAs right now. It's about $32,000. I mean, over the next 17 years at a 7% interest rate, that $32,000 might go to about $100,000 if we account for a 7% return. But that means $100,000 you're not going to be able to live off of. So you got to start saving, investing more money, and start taking action on that. So have to start educating yourself, have to start learning, and most importantly, take action immediately, because this is not a situation that you can say, I'm going to figure this out 5 months from now. This is not a situation that whatever it is. And frankly, what Dave Ramsey teaches is keep $1,000 in your emergency fund. Right now we have $6,000. His suggestion would be take $5,000 out $6,000 and go put that towards the debt snowball route. And that would pay off one or two of your different credit cards. And that's a route some people love. I think Dave Ramsey's great when it comes to paying off debt. Some people would say keep a month of living expenses. I don't care which one it is. I would personally do one or the other. I'd personally go the $1,000 route, because guess what? Worst case scenario, you have more credit card debt. 3 months from now, and you're like, oh, something happens and emergency comes up, you might have credit card debt again. That the worst spot is you're going to be in credit card debt again. The best spot is you pay this debt off quicker than you think, because you took that extra $5,000 and paid it towards this. And guess what? That's going to prevent you from shopping on your debit card on things that you can't afford, because you're going to live an uncomfortable life having only $1,000 in your bank account.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd suggest is, once rent's due on November 1st, is if you have about $1,000 in your bank account, after the rent payments due, then guess what? You're going to be uncomfortable, and you're going to really second guess your spending, and you're only going to be living in debit card. Your spending is going to cut drastically. So I love his route of paying off debt. Get uncomfortable, get intense about it. And that's the only way for you to really make drastic changes. Because right now you're too comfortable with $6,000 in your bank account, too comfortable with getting a new job that you went and spent $6,000 last month. So you have to put yourself in a comfortable situation. Otherwise, this is continue to grow and get
sure. Yeah.
So you said at the start of the show, you'd put yourself at a 5, I think, in terms of financial situation. I'm going to give you a 2, if I'm being honest. I'm going to give you a 2 because
sounds about right.
the net worth is positive. So that is a bonus. But I don't want you pulling from retirement accounts, because you did that in 2008. I don't want you pulling from retirements now, because we have nothing else, and we're encroaching on Social Security retirement age in 20 years. So I want to leave that alone and not even put that on the table. But we got to start changing these spending habits drastically now, so that you're not living like this for the rest of your life.
Yeah, for sure.
What would you say your main takeaways from today are?
I think I just got like a lot of cold water thrown in my face. So that's good. It's good. And I would say, kids don't do what I do. But, I know a lot of people do, and I know I'm not alone. I'm in good company, but that doesn't make it right.
But you don't want to be average in America today, because average in America means you got credit card debt out of the wazoo. It means you got student loans. It means you got car payments, and it means you're anxious with money, because one bad thing can happen in your life and your whole world's turned upside down because you can't pay your bills. So it's not good to be in that company. And the only thing that you can do is, hey, let's get back to 2010 to 2022 when you lived debt free. Let's get back to that situation. And then you can start figuring out, where do I want to spend money in my life? Where do I want to allocate it towards saving, towards investing, and then towards enjoying life as well? So
yeah, totally.